guys, what's up? It's Matt. It's RYLA Routine, episode 18. I'm with Linda. Linda, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. And if I remember correctly, Linda is in Greenwood, Arkansas, right?
Yes.
Awesome. And what I know about that is very little, but I do know that it's about 3 hours from Tulsa, two and a half, I guess, from Tulsa. It puts Greenwood would probably be from Camp Heart of the Hills would probably be like southeast, right? Like it's
Mm,
kind of not it's not
yep.
the top of Arkansas, it's more like middle. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
How many students are in your graduating class at Greenwood?
Ooh, like 300.
Okay, wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome because I mean we talked to Dylan a few weeks back and she had like 50.
Yeah,
Um
I know.
and so like like you have various different levels of experience when it comes to like how many people are at people's camp at people's
Hmm.
schools. And I was talking to you a little bit before we got on the call, like you're going to be unique because like you're probably going to start a string of campers here that are were campers then went to be CITs in the spring, from
Right.
spring to fall. And as we move back to the fall, you came back there. So you basically came to camp in 2020, I guess, three, came back in fall
Yeah.
of 23 as a CIT, right?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Well, just get it rolling. Tell us how you found out about camp.
So it was kind of a unique experience because nobody in Greenwood had knows about RYLA. But in Fort Smith, there's a Rotary Club and everything. And my sister went and she actually found her boyfriend there. And they're
When
still
was this?
together and everything. It's Sarah. They didn't really like come out. They don't have any connections with
Gotcha.
anybody else about it, but I thought it
Sure.
was really cool.
So
I'm sorry?
you found out through the Fort Smith Club. I mean, so are you the
Hmm.
first kid from Greenwood to go to camp?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay, very cool. So
Um,
you how do you find out about that? How does that happen?
so her boyfriend's sister is my good friend. And so we both went together and like our moms talked about it. I was like, yeah, I'll sign her up, no big deal. I ended up missing a soccer game for it. Um, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'll do it. Like I'm up for it. Like whatever. And we went and had a blast. It was just like, oh, on a wing thing. Like I signed up very late too.
Okay, tell me
But
about so you go to camp. So you came to camp with a friend, right? Is that
mhm.
what I'm understanding? Awesome. And so tell me about when you guys get to camp. Like, did you ride together? Did you ride with a Rotarian? Who brought you to camp?
Her mom brought me to camp. And when we first got there, it was so like we felt like we're the last ones there because everybody was already like inside eating and everything. And the tunnel was kind of small, and I was like, "What is this?" I was like, "What?" Because I'm like, oh, like jet lagged from the car ride. I'm like, "What is going on?" And so like we kind of just walked through it, and I'm like, "Oh, it's kind of weird, but okay, like it's not what I was expecting at all." And we go in and eat, and Cade starts sitting by us and telling us, "Oh, I know your sister." I was like, "You know my sister? Wait, which one?" And it was like, whoa, whoa, these people are like really hype.
What do you
It was so fun.
when it comes to coming to camp and it comes to like the camp experience when you get there and like I mean, what was your real expectation like coming into it? Like when, like what were you looking for? Like, was it just like somebody said, "Hey, it's 4 days"? Like, how was camp described?
It was more like a church camp almost. They were like saying like, "Oh, we're gonna have it planned out, a day planned out." But you're just gonna go to a camp and meet people. And that was like basically it. It was just like it's a leadership camp, you'll have things to do. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what all that is, but I've seen camps on like Instagram and stuff because I've never had been to a camp like that before.
Okay,
And so I was like expecting church camp, like
yeah.
what I've
So
seen from pictures.
was that your first time here in April? Was that your first time going or March? I mean, was that your first time going to a camp where it was in an overnight experience?
Yeah.
Tell me about that because like I haven't talked about that with anybody, and like through the YMCA, one of the things that I talk a lot about is the power of resident camping because you take people from
Hmm.
like multiple different facets of life, and all of a sudden you're sleeping in the same space. Like if we just put you in individual hotel rooms where like Lindah's with herself and like you have a hotel room. Like it wouldn't be
Right.
the same experience as it is at RYLA. So like tell me a little bit about that resident camp factor, because resident camp for somebody that's never been to resident camp, a lot of campers come to camp and they may have been at like a Falls Creek or a church camp or War Eagle, like they've gone to the traditional camps, but a large percentage have never been to camp and their first experience is RYLA. Tell me about that for you as a first experience.
It wasn't that bad because I have 9 siblings, and so I grew up like rooming with
Say
people.
nine,
And
like
so
is in that many?
yeah,
Where do you fit in
I
the
have
nine?
I'm number 7.
Okay.
So, I'm used to it. So, I'm a really bubbly person when it comes to meeting people. I'm yeah, like, hey, like, you want to be friends, you know? And so when I walked in, I was like, I took a video. I was like, what is this? Like, this is so funky. Like, I love this. And so, in March, we had just like the girls and the boys camping together, whereas like now it's like tribes.
Right.
And so I had like people from hot pink, turquoise, from all these different tribes with me, and I was like, "This is so cool! I get to meet the other tribes and get along with them, not only with mine but others, you know." And I have cards from them because we clicked so well, and I don't know, I room with people really well because I grew up like that,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't really different for me at all.
Okay.
I had my own space like I did growing up, and they had their own space. We respected that. We didn't, push any boundaries with that or anything. So it's pretty normal.
Yeah. I think that you mentioned something there too. So like you mentioned in the spring, because we were just coming back from the pandemic with the first camp. So like we had typically we would just have tribes, all the female campers from one tribe in the cabin. And then because of numbers, we had like, oh, there's half a hot pink with
Mhm.
half a purple or half a flame with half a purple. Um, so yeah, I mean that's vastly different too, because you're having tribe time and stuff like that with those campers that
Right.
are in your tribe, and you get to know those guys at a really deep level, but then you're also getting the opportunity to know those other ones that come back from other tribes there too. Um, when you think back to your camper year, like coming into it with what sounds like the expectation is it's a 4-day leadership camp, it's overnight, um, and nobody said it was going to suck. So, like, came into it with good expectations. What
Right.
ended up being the like? What ended up being for your camper year, like an activity, or where did things kind of set for you to where it may be more than that?
So my tribe, there were so many flames in there. So many. And I'm half flame myself. And so the tribe challenges and all those those competitions really clicked for me and my tribe because we won like almost every single one of them. And I
Right.
was so happy that we did. And I'm very competitive in myself. I'm just like, yes, we did it. Like, you guys are awesome. We all like raised each other up to what we could do, each person could do. And we like the whole Marlon Mania. We just like, okay, you're better at this, you do this, and the Amazing Race was definitely where we like succeeded completely because we were in front of everybody because we just put, okay, I know you're gonna running, you're gonna run up there, and you're gonna doing this, you're gonna do this, and we put everybody into these boxes where they're good at, and they know they're good at it, and we raised them up to what they could do,
Yeah.
and that really just set in. And then what really like made me like it's like, oh, this is my place was actually the little tribe times after each day. That's when we really like got emotional with each other, and we got to see inside each other's lives and our backstory and everything with that. And it was amazing.
So the tell me, so you talk about the successes of all those flames. Were there moments of camps when, as a fire, all those fires didn't work?
Oh my
Was there
gosh.
anything at
So
camp that you saw like? Because I will say my Matt's favorite activity at camp, paracord activity.
oh
If I
my
do remember
gosh.
correctly, I do believe the Flame Tribe, your camper year, it may have had the most difficult time with paracord out of any tribe I think I've ever seen have with that. And now that you've told me, you may have told me why that's the case. But what was that? Was that your tribe that had a was the last ones in the gym in the spring?
Yes, it was. It was very frustrating because we're all just like getting so mad, and we're all trying to take lead, but we couldn't see. We couldn't see what's going on. And these waters were just like, and they were just like not talking, and like they were getting frustrated as well. They're feeding off of our frustration, not being able to see what's going on. And so they were getting frustrated themselves, but they could see. And so we had to like take a second and like step away from it and be like, hey, this is okay. Like, calm down. It's gonna be okay. You're good at what you do. You can see, just calm, collective, go back, and we ended up getting it. But I mean, we we did have some points where we had let go, and it made it even more difficult because that's how it works.
Right.
But yeah, the paracord was something that was one picture I have. I'm turned away like this. My head's in my hands.
Well, what do you,
But
so talking about that, like, so you come back, you go through camp, and you make the decision to come back. Well, why come back to camp, and why serve as a CIT this year? So, we've got a kind of a structure to camp that supports future growth for you as a leader to come back and learn more and get to put those skills into place that, honestly, you learned a year ago. In this case, it was 6 months ago. So
mhm.
why did you choose to apply, and why come back to camp?
My chief, Katie, was my chief my camper year and my CIT year, but my camper year, we in our tribe, we had a difficult girl, and she actually talked about this on hers, and I watched her deal with it, and I myself have a lot of empathy, and I could feel what other people think are feeling, but I don't obviously feel it myself. And I watched her go through it, and I watched her like cry, and like I hugged her. I was like, I walked outside with her. I was like, hey, it's gonna be okay. And I watched how she impacted all of us because she impacted me tremendously, and I love that. Um, and so I was like watching her impact all these people while being such like a joyful soul and getting up on chairs with us and
Yeah.
singing and dancing and everything. And I was like, this is amazing. Like she had just changed all these campers who were so afraid to do so many things to they're standing up on chairs now. They're
Right.
singing now.
Yeah.
They're like this whole room is filled with joy now. So
So
I was like, I want to do that.
you talk about joy, like, and so you want to come back, and you want to be able to provide that, and so you get that opportunity to come back. Um, what was the experience like as a CIT? I mean, what was it? I mean, so you kind of, it's like I joke about it all the time with folks, and I think I've said it on a few of these calls. Like, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Like, by no means am I Oz, but like it's like there's a script, right? I mean, like, from
Mhm.
the time we get there to the time we leave, like, there's a plan. And I know for some people, I'm like, hey, you just got to trust the plan. Like, just
Right.
trust it, because there's going to be a moment where you go, this is tough. Like, this is hard work, because there's kids that don't see because you saw the end zone,
Mhm.
eventually. Like, you saw the goal by the time you left on Sunday as a camper, and they're there on Thursday, and they're like, I don't even know why I'm here. I got in a car
Right.
with somebody. I don't know why I'm here. All I know is this is a 4-day leadership camp. I still don't know why I'm here. And you're trying to think about, how are you going to get this person to understand that this is a place of joy, of kindness, of acceptance, of
Right.
just people being people, and being okay being themselves too.
Right.
So as a CIT, I think that's probably one thing that, like, I would assume those are some things that go through your mind, like, how do I move the needle? Like, Katie moved the needle. Like,
Mhm.
can I move the needle? Tell me about being a CIT.
It was like it's just seeing the whole other side of it, because like you said, the script, I got to see the script and know what's going on. And so I was trying to explain to this campus, like, I can't tell you what's next, but I know you're gonna love it,
Right.
and it was just like trying to get them involved because there was a lot of in my this AIT year, it was a lot of people who didn't want to take the next step. They wanted to go home. Most of my camp, they wanted to go home. And so I was trying to, tell them like, hey, like lift your head, it's okay. Like I promise you guys are gonna love it. Like I'm trying to get them intrigued. And my fellow CITs did a great job with helping me out with that. But there's this one girl in particular that was like sitting every single time, and she was very like disfocused. So I at times, as much as I would love to do the activity, I had to go out and sit with her because
Yeah.
I didn't want her to be alone.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to be alone like that. And like I said, with my empathy, I knew how she was feeling. And so I would go out and sit and talk to her. And finally she had gotten up and got it. And at the end of the camp, she gave me the biggest hug I've ever received. And my affirmation card was filled with, like, there were tiny words, but it was filled from her. And I felt so accomplished. I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
I brought joy to her. Like, I got her to do something and she loved it. During the dance party, she held my hands and sang with me and danced with me. And I was like, this is what Katie did to me. I
Yeah.
This is it.
I think
And
I
so it
remember. So there was a picture I think you shared in the group, probably
yeah.
like the week after camp. I think it was you and her, together with some of
Hmm.
those words. And I think that that's so important. I'm gonna say something you may go, Matt, you're crazy. I don't even know. Are you aware who the Savannah Bananas are? Baseball
Yes.
team?
Yes.
Okay, so the guy that coaches the Savannah Bananas played at the same junior college I played at. His name's Tyler Gillum. And at the end of the day, they're all cast members. It's like Disney World, right? Like it's just an
Mhm.
experience. It's a scripted baseball game with the only thing it's not scripted is the baseball. Everything else is planned. And Tyler has he's got a motto right now to meet you. He wants to reach 1 million people through baseball. He wants to make an impact personally. And so, he's challenging himself, if that's through, videos, or if that's through going and talking to kids, whatever it may be. I think very often, like, people look for this big number, and Tyler has a platform. Like, he's running at it with with the largest, like, virally, like, those guys are going to do some amazing things that their
Right.
videos end up everywhere. He can impact people on that scope, just on that. But like, when you look at like the 1-to-1 and the impact that, so Katie can have on you, and then you can go have on others, and you look at the multiplication of this thing, and I talk
Right.
about, 2,143 campers since 2012. It's the multiplication of that 1-to-1 that I think makes such a big difference in what we do as people with RYLA, and what
Hmm.
turns into being you making Greenwood the best you can make Greenwood. Going back and being the best teammate on your soccer team, or being the best teammate,
Hmm.
being the best employee, for your employer, or being a best team member at your, at the same time. I think all of those things are so imperative. And that 1-to-1, when people take time and stop and pause and make us feel like we're important for no
Right.
other reason other than that's what we should be doing to other people, it goes a long ways. And so to see that picture, I mean, you're telling that story, and I'm sitting here like, I remember that picture. It's, it's Aaron talking about, 2019 with a camper up on top of the wall. And like, I can close my
Hmm.
eyes and see those pictures and go, you know what? It's the magnification, because that kind of hope for some people can transcend not just you and I, but it can go, eventually those people have kids, or eventually those people have,
Right.
a life outside of, 20 years down the road. They may never come back as a CIT or chief, but they did have a moment in their life where they had the thumbprint was touched by RYLA. And
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important to keep that in mind. Um, as a CIT, what was your favorite part of camp? Like, what was your, like, now that you got to see like the behind the scenes, like, what was your
Mhm.
favorite? Like, oh my gosh, because of this, I got to see this happen.
Um, I think people's reaction to the jelly bean video, actually, because people felt so, like, they came back, they're like, whoa. They were like, we really do, like, each day is so important.
Yeah,
We take so many things for granted. And their reaction to it was so, like, awesome, because I've already seen it. And
yeah,
I've watched it, like, outside of camp, just to remind myself. But their first time seeing it was like, oh, so we really do have just, these limited amount of days, and we got to make the most out of every single one of them.
yeah. Well, it's
But
time,
yeah,
right? It's
that
it's it's the
right,
hours, right? I mean, it's minutes turn
exactly.
into, it's the decision you make. I mean, I know as an athlete, and I give Maddox a hard time all the time. I'm like, dude, just 20 minutes a day. Like, just spend 20 minutes a day doing something more outside of practice, whether that be being a student, whether that be with your saxophone. Like, find 20 minutes and put it towards something every day. And it doesn't have to be the same thing every day, but it has to be something
Mhm.
that you want to improve, or something that you enjoy doing, because eventually later in life, one, that builds habit, and habits necessary. um, but how we spend our time, I mean, you control how you spend your time. I do.
Right.
Yeah, we go to school. Like, we go. There's certain things you're gonna have to go to the restroom. You're gonna have to take a shower. You're gonna have to. There's things you have to do, but then you get this
Mhm.
bank of time, And what you do
Right.
with that time is in large part up to Linda, up to Matt, up to everyone. And so I think when you break it out and people get to see it, I shared that when I became the Rotary Club president in Broken Arrow. I literally I've still got the jar in my office. So that was I think it was 2016. But I've got a jar of 365 jelly beans that's in my
That's so
office.
cool.
And they're like now, like, they're all stuck together because like
Yeah.
there's probably, 8-year-old jelly beans, but there's 365. And my point was like, as president, I've got 365 days to make an impact in Broken Arrow where I'm the leader of this organization. And when you break that out, how much time can I really spend on Rotary? I've got to be really intentional on the time I spend. Same thing with being
Right.
being a father. I come home from work and I've got to be intentional as how I spend time with my kids. And so I think that jelly bean video really starts compartmentalizing and I put that on Facebook today, like a post, like what I can control and what I can't control. Um, I can
Hmm.
control, I can control my thoughts and my actions.
Right.
Um,
That was really cool. I showed my mom that. She was like, "Yeah, that's so real." Because I mean, you try to control other people's thoughts and what they do, but you can only control what you do.
right.
And we implement that in my work. Is you can't control what the customer thinks. You can control how you put out the food and our customer service towards them, but we cannot control what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. 110%. So I hear you saying, talking about the jelly bean and I mean, every day is a new jelly bean and we hope we get a next one. And and that's not always guaranteed, but the opportunity to know we got to do something with it intentionality, I think, is the big word. And so I think you
Hmm.
probably got to see, I think when you come back as a CIT, you start seeing some intentionality that
Right.
maybe as a camper you go, oh well, that was cool, like the
Yeah, no big
retirement of the
deal.
flag, like why would you do that after going to getting all these kids hyped, like,
Hmm.
and then you kind of pull down and go, okay, well, we came to camp as multiple different individuals, and now all of a sudden we're talking, we're going to build some tribe identity as RYLA Mania, and then
Yeah.
once RYLA Mania is over, there's a common theme in there, and that's we're all here in the same time in the same place, retiring this flag, talking
Right.
about the country that we're all physically standing in at the moment, regardless of being from the country. We're all physically standing there because of things that flag has stood for and the opportunities we've been provided. So I think when you start seeing the intentionality of camp, it hopefully it as a person like yourself that's I think really intelligent and has done a great job so far as a CIT. I think you have the opportunity to go, huh?
Right.
Okay, there's purpose. Would you agree
Right.
with that, or is that just Matt
Oh,
making a point?
absolutely. Absolutely. And also like like the whole thumbprint speech, it's so funny because I just did a presentation on psychological disorders for my English class, and I was talking about my thumbprint. And I was like, my thumbprint is nothing. No one else has my thumbprint. I was like going on this whole speech. I only had 3 minutes in my presentation. I was going on this whole speech about my thumbprint. And my teacher said she didn't even like check the time because she was so she was so focused on what I was talking about. She's like, I'm not even gonna count your time. That was awesome. But I post on Instagram all the time. I'm like, this is only mine, and
Yeah,
it's where I come from, and it's who I am.
yeah.
I love it.
Well, it's I 110%. I mean, we are unique. And
Hmm.
that's what makes us great. I mean, that's what I think. I think, when people, what's the secret sauce at RYLA? Well, if we were to go to the end of the script, it's that every thumbprint is unique and every thumbprint is accepted
Yeah.
and every thumbprint is engaged, regardless of their desire to be engaged. We're going to engage. Every
Right.
thumbprint comes to camp that we know it's different. We know every thumbprint has a need for hope, a need for kindness, and a need for love, and we have the opportunity to support that when we've never met somebody. Um,
Right.
because there was a point. Let's call it what it is. There was a point up until, you know, the I guess the fall of 2002 when I met Tommy Jane. Like I went 19 years of my life without. Like there's a point where you meet somebody and you engage with that person because and it clicks because you're willing to accept other people and you're willing to listen and you're willing to maybe find somebody that enjoys the same things you enjoy. um and so I think that those thumbprints, your passion, how you're shaped, is critical. It's
Yes.
absolutely mission critical. um and that thumbprint makes up so much of that. So that's awesome to hear you talking about that and using that. We got about 5 minutes left here. When you think about camp, Like when you talk about camp today, now that you've
Mhm.
been to camp and you've come back to camp, like
Yeah.
how do you share what camp is?
Camp is like the place where I can be myself. Camp is the place where everybody comes from different backgrounds and they all become family. It's truly my happy place. Truly. People like I don't say that lightly at all. Like it's true it's family to me. Like everybody is so accepting and honest and just so kind that I don't want to leave after 4 days.
Yeah.
Everybody says that, but I for the first day I didn't want it to come in the first day. But it's just it's campus love. It's love everywhere. You just look at one little connection that there's so much love with
Yeah.
everybody.
When you talk
So,
about that and you talk about the connection point, when you talk about love and connecting that back to leadership, right? So you think about that very first comment
mhm,
somebody made to you, it's a 4-day leadership camp. How do we
mhm,
accomplish leadership at camp? Like, how do you see that? Like, because at the end of the day, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, right?
mhm,
Like,
right.
how does leadership show up? Because if that was what you heard it to be and you know it to be true, how does leadership show up at camp?
Well, someone's got to take that first step into providing the love. I believe that's leadership. Being the first person to be kind to somebody and let it like go down the line, that's leadership. Taking that role is and taking the role to just like have the camp yourself. You are providing leadership for everybody else to implement into their own lives. Um, that's what leadership is to me and what it implements to other people because people will take that and what they see from it and implement leadership in their own lives and start that train of love, start that train of happiness, um, and just take leadership over their own lives and like the jelly beans, you take leadership in your own lives, not just at other people but your own lives, and you make your day to what it is.
Right.
You can only control what you make your day.
So you go back, so you play on the soccer team, right? How do you
Yes.
soccer's a good example because I'm a sports person, right? And so
Mhm.
how do you take the things you took it you learned from camp and like have you taken any of those things and like when it comes to athletics, have you figured out a way to like implement some of those things in your own life as an athlete?
Oh, 110%. I mean, um, I'm not a captain, but there's captains, like two of them, and one of them I'm really close with because she is so, so nice to people. And I talk to her all the time. I'm like, hey, you would love this camp. First of all. Second of all, what you're doing is what I learned. What I realized was what I learned is what you're already doing. And I talked to her, I was like, hey, this is what I learned. Like, we can look past everybody's different talents and gifts because every person on the soccer team has a different role and
Right.
they have to do it differently. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, we can look at what everybody has and use them to their best abilities. That's like my camper year. That's what I did my camper year. What I wrote, told Katie, I was like, I want to go to my soccer team and implement this. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I did. Is I was like, hey, you're really good at this. I think you'd be real. And they play that position to this day. My sister, I told my sister, and she's the striker. She's a second all-time scorer for our soccer team now because I was like,
Awesome.
hey, you're really good at running. You should play up top. But she does now, and
Yeah.
she's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, as we wrap this up, I want you to know you're awesome. I know you guys didn't get to see this, but I know my kids think the world of you. They think the world of a lot of people at camp. But I was outside earlier today, like trying to do some stuff, and I said, "Hey," I said, "went to the RYLA routine with Linda today," and like both of them were like, "Oh my gosh!" Like Devin and Sawyer just thought it was the greatest thing ever. They were like, "Her and Katie, which one? Her or Katie? Which one would you choose?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, you don't have to choose, but if they put you on the spot, you may have to." But they obviously my girls think the world of you and think my girls think the world of, and so does Maddox. I mean, my kids think the world of a lot of people at camp, and you're one of those people that my two girls think the world of, and it now makes sense you being in a family of seven and just the
Yeah.
premise of love and like being okay with people, especially two kids that just want to be interested in you, um, so I thank you as a as Matt. not Rotarian Matt, but as Matt in general, know that you're also making an impact on two young ladies that look at you and think you're pretty awesome. So you should know that. And then on the flip side of that,
Thank you.
I do know and I do remember your camper year. And I don't remember if it was, I think it was for me and Kyle were both pretty direct in saying like you should come back to camp.
I love
Because
Kyle so
as a
much.
camper, I specifically remember you sitting up in the front couple rows, and I was like, okay, you need to come back to camp because your energy was you good energy. You can be around some people and know there's just good energy. And I'm very, very glad that you choose to come back to camp and have chose to come back and serve. Because I think that's that's definitely where your heart is. It's clear. It's not just for 4 days. That's where your mind is. And you try to get there. Like I think that's genuinely who you are. And I appreciate that a lot about you. Anything else you got to add to the conversation before we say bye?
I'm good.
Awesome. Well, guys, that was Lindah. Episode 18. We got 19 next week. And be gearing up here close to 20. District conferences in a few weeks. I think district conference, I'm going to try to snag a couple of Rotarians kind of leading up to that. Get us a couple folks that have been chaperones for us and really keep on trucking, knowing that I've already been getting emails and stuff about, hey, camp for next year. So try to get out some information on CIT chief applications as well as leadership, and then also trying to get out some information on student applications before school gets out so Rotarians can start running that gamut. But you're awesome. Lindah, you're amazing. I really, really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. Hope you have an awesome weekend and you guys stay blessed.
You too.